Yeah, coming from the man's perspective, I guess, just like the way husbands view this, I can't be present for everybody's relationship, but there are not too many problems a woman cannot solve if she doesn't step out of her femininity.
Mm.
And it's almost as if the same way y'all are built to bow down to masculinity naturally and submit to it, a man is eventually going to submit to your femininity. I find that too many women cross over into frustration naturally, right? If you're not getting your way, we know that in modern times, you're just like, well, I could take the other route, we could, because you're frustrated. I do not find that a woman cannot melt a man down by staying purely and uniquely feminine. Because even if he was completely wrong, if you want to make a man feel sorry, don't step out of your femininity. That's when a man is like, I can't believe I did that shit to her, bro. What's wrong with me? I'm only ever remorseful when she is purely feminine. Like any woman I'm dealing with, whether it's at work, anywhere, as soon as you posture me like you would do, we just started a whole vicious cycle of fuckery all over again. Right. So I would just say like likely I cannot be present in everybody's relationship, but that's my only advice on the topic. Remain in your femininity at all times, and you will melt that man down and listen to what you have to
How
say.
does your wife disarm you? Trigger
I
Mike.
agree
I
with
have
Trigger
received
Mike.
media training that doesn't allow me to answer such questions. Sorry.
Well, I agree with Trigger Mike because I know my brother and my father both said that if you never like attack a man or lambaster him or call him outside of his name, if he ever goes to that point with you and he says something like he calls you the B word, you'd be like, listen, I don't speak to you that way. I need you to bring it down a notch. And he's like, you know what? You're right. You don't. So he brings it down automatically. But if you guys go tit for tat and reach that same level of anger, then he feels like he's allowed to. But if you don't, be like, honey, I don't talk to you like that. I need you to bring it down so we can talk like civilized people. And they automatically will bring it down. And I know my father used to always say that, like my mother, sometimes he would be upset and he would speak to her in a manner like, Mom, why don't you say something? He's like, you know what? We'll talk later. She would always bring it down, relax, and they would speak later. And she would never get out of frame. She would never get out of character. I'm like, and I would be so mad at her. I'm like, how are you just gonna let him talk to you like that? But she was like the ultimate lady. She's like, he's your father, you know?
Was that her personality, or was that an? Because see,
She
hold
was
on.
like the ultimate lady. And I
Every
don't understand.
woman, so there that means every woman should behave the same. And that's where you're taking away the unique identity of who God has. That means no man should break down and cry, ever need a hug or affection. So that's what I'm saying. I don't
You
like these
know, and
panels.
see, I don't
Hold on.
think every woman is the same, but I think she
And
learned
every man,
her
I agree with
man.
you.
Yeah, she learned her
I agree.
man, and that's what he needed. Like he didn't want an aggressive, strong woman. My mom was very feminine. She was very
Right.
docile, but she always remained the frame, and that's what he wanted. Some men don't want that, but she learned her
Right.
man. I think that's the
But
important thing.
outside of your father, was that who your mother was?
She's still like that to
Wait,
this
what,
day.
what
Like
man
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
want
when
what
her
I
I'm
man?
was
trying to say.
younger, I used to actually when I was a kid, I didn't understand, but when I became like the strong, empowered woman, I almost like disrespected her. I was like, Mom, how are you just gonna let him talk to you like that? And then
Yeah.
she's like, he's your father. She would just stop. And I'm like, okay.
And that's the essence. That's what I'm saying. That was the essence of that had nothing to do with being feminine or masculine. That's who she is at
That
her
is who she
core.
is.
That's her DNA.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying. I cannot
But she
stand.
did, like, even though she wasn't like this a boisterous, outspoken woman, she was still the first lady of the church, and she had a strength. But even when my father passed away, I had so much respect for her, how she cared for him when he was sick,
Right.
how she was there for him, how she handled his death. Like I was like, Mom, I don't even know where you got the strength from.
Right.
I gained so much respect for her in her later years. But I would think like, Mom, really, your goal in life was to be a mom and a wife, but at the end of the day, now my father has passed and she raised 5 children who now care for her. She doesn't have to work because she poured everything she had into her children and now we're taking
Gotcha.
care of her. So I have respect for her now. At
Right.
a young age, I didn't see it, but now as a woman, as a mother myself, I see the value that she gave to my father, the support, the love. So I do want to be more like that now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
And I think what we're missing, y'all. Y'all keep giving people the recipes to be the same. Ain't no woman gonna be the same. Ain't no man gonna be
No,
the
for
same.
sure.
Period.
Absolutely not.
And that's what I'm saying. We got to get away from that. Like, you got to be this way. This is a successful
Yes.
relationship. No, it's not, because there's a lot of women that's their way.
Yeah, there's different
That's
dynamics
their
between
way,
different
and that
people.
have gotten dogged the hell out. And there's a lot of men that have been really nice gentlemen and have gotten mistreated, right? By way of this conversation topic, is being a good guy or whatever it is enough? And it's not. We have to create enough space on these panels to let people be themselves. Otherwise, we don't all have the same what is it called? Fingerprint, blueprint, DNA. Stop telling people there's one way to be successful in a marriage. If that works for you, then you've got to show up and have enough confidence to say, this is what has worked for me. And me and my wife, or me and my husband, have been successful by way of this. And this is my advice. This may not work for every woman. This may not work for every man, but this is where I found success. And I feel like a lot of you are very rigid in that, very one sided, very fixated, and you have no care outside of what you think and how people and what people are going through and the dynamics, right? Every Black woman is not the same. Every Black man is not the same. Every single mother is not the same. And y'all got to start, if you want to evolve in these spaces, you got to get away from these one-sided ass talking points. That's all I'm saying. They're
What I
very fixed. They're very, very rigid. It's like there's no room for error. If she doesn't operate this way, she's no good to any man. That's BS.
what I do agree, I do agree with you partially, because I do see a lot of one-sided talking points. But I know a lot of people can only speak from their experience. They don't have conversations outside of their personal circle,
But
you
most
know?
people aren't saying this. I asked him, I said, is that what he said, I can't speak on my relationship. So we're not seeing that, Kelly, in these spaces. You're
Especially
not
from the
hearing
married
people say that.
people.
I asked Trigger Mike, is that what worked for you? He said, I don't speak on my relationships. I've been
Well,
trained.
I mean, let's be real. You're not asking me in the sense of
I
getting
did ask you. But
real
you weren't.
information. Come on now. Like
I did.
I talk objectively about my marriage all the time. Catch my show, Trigger Mike show in the morning,
No,
10
but
a.m.
this is my first time being on a panel with you. I have panels all the time. When people come
Yeah.
with real life, like mental health, check my panels out.
I
There's
mean, yeah,
people come
as
all
the
athletes,
conversation
whatever, and we
progresses, you
all
will hear
share
me talk
freely.
objectively
And it
about the
wasn't a
way I carry
personal
myself.
attack, but I was just asking for outcomes in real life, just
Oh,
by way of
by all means, you will get them, and I'll
thank
speak
you.
objectively about it. You will get them.
I got you.
I can
The way
vouch
I
for
see it
Trigger
is the
Mike.
way I
I
see
feel
it is
like
that if
he's very well rounded as far as, like, he doesn't have like those crazy manosphere talking points. He's very well rounded, and he does, like, guys will go crazy on his panel. He's like, okay, so let's say we do hold men accountable. What does that look like? So that is something I do appreciate about Trigger Mike specifically. So
the way I see it is that we try to generalize, and when we generalize, people don't like it because not everybody's like that. They want people to be specific, and when you make it personal, they start using your personal information to attack you. That's what I've noticed in these spaces, and something that I really don't like. I personally always bring my grandparents as an example. Over 65, 70 years of marriage till death do them apart. I look at them, and Kelly was mentioning her mother, and I'm like, it's very similar to my grandmother. However, the difference is that my grandmother used to tell my grandpa, don't do that. You're gonna, something like that, because my grandpa was a stubborn man, stubborn to his core, stubborn. And then he will come and say, you know what? You were right. I'm sorry. I used to see that. But he was a different man. That doesn't mean that he was not a leader. We all respect him. He left a legacy. We celebrated his life. We love my grandpa. So, and that's just the man. And to me, that's just, I cannot even explain how much respect I have for him, but for her and what she's done after his passing, oh my God, so it's different. And she is a very feminine woman. She's like, very pure to today. And I even said it before. He had 2 kids outside of the marriage. She's giving his pension that belongs to her now. She's giving it to these kids. They're adults. They're not supposed to be getting anything. And one day someone asked her, I was just listening, someone asked her, like, why are you doing this? And then she answered, because that's what your grandfather will want me to do. She could just be keeping the money and use it for her, but she doesn't need it. you know. And I was like, wow, I want to be as good as this woman. I want to be a little bit of her. So everybody's different, you know, like different experiences. It doesn't have to be one mold for everything.
All right, I'm gonna have Balance take us home on this one. You want to add anything else?
I mean, this specific topic, though, is a common issue. And we're talking about the majority of men and the issues that they have with women. And this specifically is a very common issue that most men have. So I think in this instance, we can speak in a general manner, because if we're talking about what women could do differently to speak to their men in a way that is receptive, I love what Kelly said, and she was finding different ways in which to present the information so it's received in a respectful way. And I think a lot of women don't do that. It's like they try one method and they'll keep trying it over and over and over and over, and it never works. And then they get frustrated, and then they never get anywhere as a couple. Collectively, they're not growing. So I think women need to know how to present the information and when. How and when are the most important parts of communication. And even though, yes, the man is the leader, we all know that women naturally are more effective communicators naturally. So a man is a leader, but if women have that strength, then we should be the ones that bend in that aspect when it comes to trying to present the information, because that's our strength. So I think as women, we should take on that as like our role, because that's what we do well. Men do a lot of other things well in the general sense. Of course, everybody has their individual lives, but if we know that as women, take the time to learn your man specifically, learn when to have the conversation and how to have it with that particular person. So that's how I would say that.